Hello. So, a few of you will have heard me mentioning recently, I've been looking into various head tracking devices, and I've looked at the Track IR, and I've looked at the Tobii, and I've looked back at the Track IR and back at the Tobii, and I really couldn't make my mind up. And then this week, or last week actually, Tobii reached out to me and asked me if I would like to take a look at the Tobii Eye Tracker 5. And full disclosure, they are paying me to do this, and they've sent me the Tobii Eye Tracker to keep and to record some videos with, to really show the real experience of using one within Microsoft Flight Simulator. So I'm going to take a look at it. I'm going to show you it, show you what it looks like, show you how it works, and show you my very first impression of using it with the simulator. So full disclosure again, I've set it up. I have not done a flight yet. So let's go and have a first look at the Tobii Game Hub. So it's worth pointing out, actually, before we talk about the Game Hub too much, let's have a look at the Tobii thing itself. So we've got OBS here. We're going to go over to the full screen camera, which is going to show webcam view, live view. There's the Tobii connected to the bottom of my screen. So that is it. It's a small clip and a bar that goes along the bottom of your screen. And as soon as you plug it into a USB port, the drivers install, and it invites you to install the Game Hub. But you don't actually need that for Flight Simulator, as we'll get to in a moment. So if I go back to full screen for the moment, and we have a look in the Game Hub application that it invites you to install. So you can see there's something like 170 games, 172 games that will work really nicely with the Tobii out of the box. Some of them don't have any configuration, so Flight Simulator, it's built into it. It understands what the Tobii is, and it has all its configuration built in. We'll go have a look at that. Other games, like DCS, have very detailed configuration panels, but it's all very good. It's got really nice diagrams explaining what you're configuring if you turn various things on and off. So it's very, very straightforward to set up. So the Game Hub, essentially allows you to configure it and tune it for each game that you might play, and you can have different profiles as well within the Game Hub. So we're going to go and minimize that out of the way. We don't really need to worry about that. The thing that perhaps is the advantage the Tobii has over Track IR is it can track your eyes as well as your head position. So we're going to go and open up this little program called Tobii Ghost, and it has a preview option that will show us, and as soon as you switch it on, you see this bubble on the screen. Now I'm not moving my head, I'm just looking around with my eyes. So if I look around the corners of the screen, it's very, very accurate, and it can see exactly where I'm looking. So for example, if I read this piece of text where it says preview, check out what your ghost bubble will look like. This will not embed Ghost into your video or stream it to Twitch. So it's very, very cool, isn't it? So this just gives you a heads up on where it thinks you are looking on the screen, and it's invariably extremely accurate. It's brilliant fun. Okay, so we'll turn it off for the moment, and we'll jump over to Flight Simulator, and we will resume the simulator where we are. So we're sitting in the Cessna 182 on the ground at Booker. I can still use the keyboard keys, by the way. So you might be wondering, okay, let's move my head around. So if I lean to the right and lean to the left, it's all very neat and tidy. If I lean forwards and if I lean backwards, it's all working. If I look up and look down, this can all be tuned as well. So if you imagine, I'm tipping my head and looking sideways at the screen when I'm doing this, so it's worth knowing that I'm doing that. You can tilt your head as well. It understands tilting your head. It's really it's quite amusing, isn't it? So if we go and turn the eye tracking back on in Ghost, you'll see what I'm on about it influencing it. So I'm going to look directly ahead at the instruments, and now I'm going to look over to the side. Notice the camera is following my eyes without me moving my head an inch. So all I'm doing is moving my eyes around, and the camera is panning to move where I'm looking. Now that can be switched off, okay? And the whole eye tracking completely can be switched off. So I have configured it to a keyboard key, which I'm having to look down to my keyboard, which is one of the things that might throw you with this. So if I press the scroll lock button, I have now switched it off look completely. So I can still look around. Ghost is still showing me where I'm looking, but it's no longer tracking me. And I've just turned that back on, and now it is tracking me again. Okay. So if we go and turn Ghost back off, so you can see there's different ways you can show this as well. So you can have like a heat map that shows you over time where you're looking, which is quite good for market research, I imagine. And there's a solid bubble as well. We'll put it back on bubble and we'll turn it off for the moment. Okay. So how does Flight Simulator work in terms of configuration? So if we press escape and go and look in the control options, you can see on the far right of the screen when it loads, you get a Tobii option when it's plugged in. There's nothing to set up for this, it just appears. And then we can go into sensitivity, and you can see there are our sensitivity scales for the various axes and motion axes as well. So rotation and motion axes. So you can obviously configure it endlessly, and I think I probably need to turn it down a bit from what I've first seen with it. And you can see you can tune out it following your eyes, so it only follows your head if you want. Okay, so something else that's worth pointing out, if I'm going to go into OBS and turn the screen on so you can see me on an inset camera, just to prove this works. Actually, before we do that, let's go and put this Ghost back on, move that out of the way, and put this on the inset camera. So I'm going to move the camera around now so it's pointing at me in the room. So you get a first look at me on the channel, I think, ever. So there we go. Hello. So the interesting thing is I'm going to put some sunglasses on. And now you can see it's absolutely fine. It can still see where I'm looking. Okay, so I can still look around the cockpit. Everything's working absolutely fine. So sunglasses don't affect it. How about if I turn the lights off in the room? So I'm also going to move the curtain and make it really quite dark in here. My webcam makes it look a lot brighter than it is. So it's still absolutely fine in low light. So you can see it's absolutely fine with that. Okay, so we'll turn the lights back on and open the curtain again, and we have daylight again. Okay, so that's enough of my ugly mug on the screen. We just wanted to prove that to you. Okay. So we center ourselves up in the chair. We press F12, which is the center. I've mapped a key that centers the home cockpit view. Should we go for a short fly just to see how well this works then? So we can remove the yoke, but we don't really need to anymore, do we? Because we can lean around and get around things now. Yeah. Notice it doesn't clip at the side of the cockpit, so you can do silly games like leaning outside to look down. Okay, so go and turn the switches on, and we will come over here and find the beacon light. It really is tucked away under there, isn't it? In the real world, obviously, you could lean under with your hand. I'm having to kind of aim with the mouse to get through here. And we want some mixture. And we'll go and turn the... Whoops. So notice the zoom function still works. Notice I can still press space to sit up and down. Okay, we have the engine running. Go and turn on the avionics. So as I said, I think it's a bit too sensitive. So you'll notice I'm struggling to hold my head still at times. But again, maybe I just need to retrain myself not to sit here nodding my head all over the place. Okay, just wait for the GPS to come up. It's interesting that you can see where I'm looking. So you can tell if I'm scanning the instruments now, can't you? That's quite spooky, isn't it? You can see exactly what I'm looking at. Okay, should we taxi out then? Obviously we can just sit up ourselves, we don't have to. We don't have to use the keys. We can just be a bit more active in our seat. It's quite fascinating, isn't it, that you suddenly get this extra range of motion available to you within the aeroplane. It's going to take some getting used to, I think, but it's great fun. How cool is it though, eh? We can look out, just dip down our head to look out, so the whole problem of seeing around the pillars goes away completely, because we can just duck around the cockpit as we need to. So yeah, so this is essentially the experience of using a Tobii Eye Tracker. So obviously this being able to follow your eyesight works differently in different applications. If you were playing a shooter game, you could just look at an enemy and shoot them. You know, you would be aiming your weapon just by looking, which would be a huge advantage, I would imagine. So obviously we're not flying an accurate circuit today, we're just fooling around in the air and seeing how this works and what it's like. So obviously we can tip our head all the way around and look at the back. So this is where the sensitivity comes in, obviously, because I haven't just turned my head around like an owl to face backwards. So you can tune it to the amount you want to turn your head for the amount you want the simulator to react to that. Should we get the gear down? So we'll do a right turn and then come in on the approach, shall we? We'll lose some height over the edge of the industrial estate here. It's very cool, isn't it? I'm surprised just how good it is, to be honest. And okay, some people will argue it's quite expensive for what it does, but I think it does add to the immersion factor enormously. Obviously, I've got huge thanks to give to Tobii for reaching out to me and giving me one of the Tobii 5 eye trackers to have a play with. It's very, very good. Okay, let's sit up. Straighten ourselves up on the approach. Obviously we're coming in a little bit high. This is me being completely at sea, to be honest, because I've never used a head tracker before, other than a very quick go with open track and smooth track in the past. But this is a whole different level of, it's very, very stable. There we go. So, oh my word then. So it's worth pointing out you can map keyboard shortcuts to switch it off, very, very quickly if you need to. So I have mapped a key. I probably need to make it more obvious to myself, so I can just turn it off if I need to, and then press space. Obviously it's still doing the ghost tracking, so we can go and turn that off if we need to as well. So we can come in. I'm just using the ghost tracking on demo mode there, so you can see it easily. If I wanted to turn this back on, at the press of a key, I've turned on the tracking again. And again, we've got a keyboard key, a shortcut I've used to centre up, to put us in the right place very quickly and easily. So I imagine when you are in cruise in the big airliners, it will be a huge game changer, because you'll be able to look around the cockpit, and during startup of the big airliners as well. So I think maybe for takeoff and approach you might turn it off, but when you are configuring a big cockpit, it's going to be a massive advantage. And also while dogfighting in DCS, it will be an enormous advantage. If any of you have watched Growling Sidewinder on the internet, he uses a head tracker over and above using a VR headset. Yeah, just being able to obviously move around in the cockpit to see around pillars and things, it makes it so much more immersive. Okay, you just bring the aeroplane into the parking area, try and avoid the truck which is hell-bent on running into us. Okay. It's amazing, isn't it? The guy's still over there, so we can lean down and look around. It's just fantastic, isn't it? Such a game changer. Okay, so anyway, let's come back and have another look. So this is the Tobii Eye Tracker 5. Thank you so much to Tobii for reaching out to me and for giving me the opportunity. And again, full disclosure, I'm not doing this for nothing. They're actually paying me to do this. So once again, thanks to them. And hopefully, if you've been wondering about getting an eye tracker, this has been a bit of an eye-opener for you about how it works and what it does. And I'll see you again soon.